When I started my time looping puzzle shooter Steel Hive, I only had one drone that the player could choose. It's a very basic gun drone that has 5 piercing bullets. It's versatile enough to allow for some interesting level design when combined with the replay mechanic, where your previous attempts help you, but as it only had the ability to pierce through one target and has no area of effect attacks, I was quickly limited by the amount of variety I could add to levels. To help deal with these limitations, I added the super drone feature. The purpose of super drones is to counteract the weaknesses of a drone. In the gun drone's case, I gave it a rapidly firing dual minigun dash, which lets the player clear out areas with multiple enemies, or have a bit of extra speed when going for a fast time. As the whole thing with the gun drone is taking accurate shots, I made the super version avoid hostages and the bombs that killed them. This gives the player an AoE attack that he can use in hostage situations. The bomb drone is the most simple one. I tried to get this across in the design, as it's just covered in various explosives that have been cobbled together. All the drones have the same basic body and most of them have exposed wires, because I really wanted to show how cheaply made each drone was, as they only really need to carry out their hyper-specific function before dying. The explosion for the bomb drone is made up of 2 parts. A hit scan blast that checks if the target has a line of sight with the sensor of the explosion. The hit scan can pierce through multiple targets but not the solid walls. The second part is this red sphere. Anything in this radius gets destroyed no matter what. This drone has many advantages over the gun drone, as it has high piercing damage, a large area of effect, and the utility of being able to kill targets through walls. It can also be used to boost your drones in future attempts. This is balanced by the downside of only being able to attack once. This means that in situations where there's multiple separated enemies hiding in different corners of the map, it's better to just pick them off one by one with the gun drone. The weakness that the super bomb drone fixes is being able to deal with enemies in separate rooms, as this drone is covered in cluster bombs that fire out in all directions from the initial explosion. When the drone is next to a surface, the cluster bombs get stopped next to the original explosion, leading to them being affected by the knockback. For good placement, this can lead to the explosions hitting enemies that are way across the level. The strategy for the bomb drone relies on dealing with its weakness with the gun drone by making openings and picking off separated targets. At this point in the game, the puzzle elements start to shine through as the player must start considering which drones are best suited towards the current situation. This is a weird drone because it's less of a weapon and more of a tool. It's primarily used to move walls out of the way to let other drones in. It has no way of attacking enemies directly, so it relies on other drones clearing a path for it. One of the problems that this game has is when one of your runs has been bottlenecked by your previous attempts being too slow. As the grab drone will always determine the speed at which your other drones play at, I made sure to increase the movement speed. In level 15, hostages are introduced, which are targets that the player must keep alive. It's not really that useful to move the hostages at this stage, as the player can just avoid them, so that's why level 25 introduced hostage bombs. These explode when the player kills every enemy in the map, so it forces the player to move the hostage or the bomb itself. This drone really forces the player to consider which drone they should select and at which time, as now they need to ensure that the paths to the doors and hostages are clear before using the grab drone. This is probably the weirdest drone in the game, and is potentially the most powerful. As the grab drone is defenseless, I chose to make the super version invincible when grabbing an object. This is only really used when enemy drones start appearing, but that's because of how the game is structured. It doesn't really matter in earlier levels, as the only enemies are these basic goons that need to be killed by the player to win. This means that in these situations, it's more efficient to just outright kill them. As the enemy drones aren't required kills, it's a more viable strategy to ignore them with the invulnerability. The real power of this drone comes from the fact that whenever it grabs a door, hostage or anything else, it does a damaging dash with no cooldown or ammo. With good movement, this drone can clear out levels as it isn't stopped by movable walls. The downside is that it's limited by its range, so to use it effectively the player has to be really stealthy and to open as many lines of sight as possible before dying to ensure that your next drones have an easier time. Let's recap on the options that the player has. Picking off separated targets, killing groups, piercing through multiple targets, and killing targets close to walls. One area that the player is limited in is killing enemies that are far away from wall. That's what the ram drone's for. It charges up for a short delay before launching at an incredible speed. While mid-air it destroys anything in its way, the player can turn mid-air if they miss their target, and by holding S while turning, we can do this Top Gun Cobra maneuver thing. When the player crashes into a wall, the drone explodes, firing out a projectile that pierces the wall and anything behind it. This weapon is used to eliminate targets that pose a significant threat or enemies that are lined up like bowling pins. The idea behind this drone was to sacrifice the AoE of the bomb drone in exchange for huge piercing damage. The different drone variations shouldn't replace one another, but instead provide a unique utility to the player so that they can beat the level in creative ways. I intend for the basic gun drone to still be used even in the last levels. This drone is very similar to its base version, but the projectile explodes when it hits a wall. This makes up for its lack of AoE and potentially kills targets behind 2 walls. This lets the player just annihilate a whole section of the level with very little effort, but for the cost of a super drone. The shotgun drone is basically a little bit of the AoE and piercing of the bomb drone, combined with the versatility of the gun drone, minus some ammo. The bullets bounce off walls, which gives it a higher chance of getting value out of a single pull of the trigger. The intention behind this drone was to compress the rolls of the bomb drone and the gun drone without being a direct upgrade to either. The gun drone can reach a larger amount of isolated targets, and the bomb bomb drone still is the best AoE. You know, if you're gonna add a super shotgun to your game, it's gotta be very powerful. I don't think I let you down. I don't think I let the player down here. None of the other weapons in my game have sustained fire, and since the shotgun only struggles with ammo, I thought the super shotgun should fix these issues. The result is an alternate firing mode that shreds through any area with a high concentration of enemies. It differs from the super gun drone in two ways. It's much more active than the gun drone, as that targets automatically, while you need to manually aim the super shotgun. Secondly, the super shotgun pushes you back with every shot, while the gun drone actually gives you a burst of useful movement. This means that the super shotgun requires a lot more commitment to get value, but when used effectively, it can be more powerful than the super gun drone. In situations where speed is the top priority though, the super gun drone's unmatched. Each of the 10 drones have their own use cases, and because of how differently they function, none of the drones are objectively more powerful than one another. Like Big E said, don't judge a tree by its ability to swim. The only exception to this rule would be the super drones, in comparison to the normal versions. But that's because they're a limited resource. When comparing the super drone against other super drones, all of them set out to solve different problems and don't really compete with each other. Right, fella, you gotta subscribe so you can see more cool crap, and then play this game when it comes out. Don't go to Steam page yet, but I'll have one soon. Right, bye lads and lad seniors and lad juniors, lad minions and lad brothers, lad sisters. Lad thems. I'm inclusive like that. Bye lads.
This is not good. I think this is the end.
Yeah, I think this is the end, bro. I think we're dead.
My name is Andrew Dingus.
Oh, shittings.
He's coming back!